Welcome back to It's Bigger Than Me podcast. We have a special new season, and this one is full of some authors that we have inside of our company, Kingdom Alliance. Now, these women that you are going to meet have put together a really, really powerful book called Restore My Soul. Stories of redemption, deliverance, and hope. And this is just an incredible book with some amazing, again, hope filled stories. And you are going to be able to hear from some amazing women that are authors in the book. One of the first ones that you get to hear from is Miss Brandie Thomas. Brandie is just an incredible wife, mother, leader, and has just a phenomenal, outstanding story inside of this book. So, Brandie, I would love for you to share a little bit more about yourself and what prompted you to
hmm
even write this chapter in this book.
No. Hey, Molly, thanks so much for having me on your podcast today. Yeah, so like you said, I'm a wife. I have a boy mom, or a boy, I'm a boy mama, and he's 4 years old now. We actually adopted him. So my story is around my infertility journey and the journey that God took us on to adopt and come to be parents of Elijah, our son. So yeah.
I love that. And you know what? Brandy's story, you'll go follow her. We'll have all information in the show notes so you could really just follow her journey. She's such a credible mom. Her boy is so adorable. Oh my gosh, Elijah is just such a little sweetheart. So tell us a little bit about like what prompted you to write this chapter, and
Mhm.
as you're writing it, or maybe when you finish, like share the experience with us a little bit, because this anthology, with all these different stories, I mean, everybody has something a little bit different, but yours
Yeah.
obviously has a really deep meaning to it. So take us along that journey if you can.
Yeah, so when the opportunity came along to be a part of the book project, I almost was like, this, I'm not going to do it. Like, it's not my time, it's not my season. And I was just praying. I was just like, God, what would I even write about? And Elijah came to my mind. And I was like, well, that is a pretty powerful story because everything about that was divinely orchestrated and just like a journey of carrying the duality. So that's what I talk about a lot. It's like the duality of pure joy and like pure grief and carrying both of those simultaneously and how to walk through it with grace and mercy and how God continued to restore and just carry me along the journey. Even though parts of my story was really broken and painful, there were parts that were being birthed and new life was being breathed into my story. So that's, yeah, to answer your question, I think it was just, I wasn't really planning to do it. And then God spoke to my spirit, and I was like, all right, let's do it. So it was really easy for me to write it from like a standpoint of how was I going to, what was the story? Because it's just like a specific time frame versus like my entire life story. So I would say though, like sitting down and writing the first paragraph, I was bawling. And it's definitely has been contributed to like the healing journey I've been on. And yeah, but it was, I would say like I had this like the beginning sentence in my mind for a few days. And I was actually in a hotel room between my son Elijah and my husband. And I like woke up at like 4 a.m. I think, and I'm just like typing. I was like, I gotta get it out of me. Like, I just have to get it out. And I'm just like crying. And I think at one point Jeremy's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Gotta sleep. I'm fine. Don't look at me right now."
I got this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh man. But yeah, it felt really good to like get it out and write it. And yeah, I'm excited that it's in pages now.
Yes. No, it's very, very powerful. And I don't know if you want to go here, but since I know a
hmm
little bit of your story, like,
Sure.
describe like just the, there's joy, there's pain, like describe
hmm
just that painful part. We all love the joy, and then you can
Yeah.
lead into that, but like really set the stage, because your story
hmm
is very deep. And I think it's really going to move people when they hear just the fact that you could even get that out on these pages.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah. So, kind of like the opening sentence was like, nobody prepared you for the heartache of taking a baby that's not yours from a mom who, you're gonna make me cry, from a mom who like wants her baby but just circumstantially can't provide. And so, our birth mom, she was 16 when we met her. We have an open adoption. We love her. We're actually going to go up and visit her next weekend. So, we have a very blessed relationship where we communicate with her weekly and we see her at least quarterly. She's been able to come to some of Elijah's school events, like she was at his pre-K graduation last year. We've done Christmases and his birthday. She came down for his birthday. So we live about 2.5 hours away, which is great. And so that was like one of the hardest parts of the adoption journey was like taking this beautiful baby. I mean, it's just like mind blowing because for whatever reason, my creation does not want to do the thing it was created to do and have a child and get pregnant. I am taking somebody else's child. And it was just like carrying the duality of like, this is supposed to be like a very joyous moment in my life. But the reality of it is it's like there's loss, there's trauma, there's grief wrapped inside of it. So it was definitely, I was not prepared for that part of the journey because people don't talk about that part. And I think and maybe other people don't have to do that part. Like we were there for the birth. We were blessed to be there for the labor part. She ended up having a C-section, so we weren't there for that specific part, but we were like in the nursery as soon as he was born, and put into like his little crib bassinet thing in the nursery. So yeah, we were pretty much there his entire life. But for us, we were there for 2 days, like because he was born in the evening, and then we had to wait a full 24 hours for her to like get off medication, be of sound mind before we could do any paperwork. And so I actually ended up he was born on like a Sunday night, and we didn't leave until like Tuesday late afternoon for like the lawyers to come up with the social work and do all the paperwork and stuff. And so he stayed in our room, but we went back and forth whenever she texted and she's like, I would like to see him. And so she was like holding him. We let her say goodbye while we packed up and did the things. And it was just like, yeah, it's just kind of gut-wrenching to pull him out of her arms and like watching her cry. And I'm like, do not cry. This is not your time to cry. Do not cry. And I'm like, I cannot get him in the car seat fast enough. And then as soon as I got out the door, and they had to wheel me out, which was like, oh my gosh, like just it was like slow motion. I'm like, I cannot get out of this room fast. And it was just like, what? As soon as that door shut, I was like, I can't. I just bawled my eyes out
Yeah, that
to the
is so
parking lot.
hard. Gosh, that is so hard. But I mean, the baby boy you got to go home with. Talk
Yeah.
about the joy, and then any kind of like word
Hmm.
of encouragement, whether it has to be with
Yeah.
writing this on paper or just even just with the adoption piece in general. I'm sure
Yeah.
I know you have some words of encouragement in you, Brandie.
Yeah. Yes, Elijah has been such a blessing to our lives and even to like he connected us with a whole new family and we love our birth mother. We were actually able to be with the birth father up until the first year and then he kind of just dipped out unfortunately. But we've been able to maintain a relationship with Elijah's birth mother. And like she's kind of like a big daughter to me, like a grown-up daughter, but I definitely kind of have taken her under my wing. And so like he's like restored me in so many ways. Like I think sometimes people look at adoption as like, oh, the adopted parents are like the saviors to this child, but I'm like, absolutely not. Like if anybody's a hero, it's Elijah
Hmm.
and like his birth mom because she she was one of the first examples of what sacrificial love and like an example of what Jesus did for us looked like to me in the physical.
Wow.
And for her to just sacrifice her wills, her desires, her flesh for the benefit to basically lay down her life, if you will, for her child was just completely beautiful. And so, if anything, like just having them in my life has restored, brought healing, just brought so much joy to it. So I guess, for the word of encouragement, I would just say if you are in a waiting season, because I think that kind of goes back to a lot of this whole journey is like a lot of waiting happened, you can still be productive in the waiting and to just trust that God is still good. That was something I struggled with, and that's probably a whole nother podcast episode, but just struggling that God is good. He sees you. He hasn't forgotten about you. And I think sometimes we want things to happen really fast, but everything always works out for your good. And it's in the perfect timing. And it sucks sometimes sitting in the waiting, but you can still be productive. You can still have a healthy relationship in the waiting. And it can also be a great time of just like for yourself to heal. So that's what I did in the waiting. I just used it as an opportunity to really just work some hard stuff out with Jesus, and just he allowed me to have time to create space so that I could receive the more that he had for me. So I hope that was encouraging to somebody who's in the waiting season.
Of course, of course. I mean, gosh, you're saying if anybody's the hero in this story, it's Elijah. And that is just so beautiful. Brandie, I just love your heart. Thank you so much for coming on and being able
You're
to share
welcome.
just why you wrote this, like what it's
Mhm.
done for you, and just giving us some more insight. And that's what you get, like on this special series, this special season. I'm getting the insight from so many women who have just poured their journey and their hearts out into this chapter in this anthology, which I know is now a bestseller in multiple categories, which is
Yay.
amazing. And just one of the amazing things that you can be a part of here at Kingdom Alliance, through going through our author academy or even our Kingdom Alliance publishing house. So, Brandie, I appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us today.
You're so welcome, Molly. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode. It means the world to me that you would lean in, listen in, and be able to hear the value that's being shared on this show. Don't forget, if you love this episode, rate the show, leave me a review, be sure to share it with a friend, and don't forget to tag me on social media. I will definitely be giving you a shout out. Also, come say hi, drop in the DMs. I would love to be able to hear what stood out to you the most on the episode and if there's any topics that you would like to hear on the show. We'll see you next time.